that one trumps the other. I mean, we still seem to stick to the standard, harder news will lead, and then the softer human interest stories will follow in a newscast. So typically we have enough time to share a little bit of all of them. So I think we like to have a gauge and think that we have a pretty good gauge of, we live in this community too, what are people wanting answers and information about? And so yesterday with the latest budget numbers coming out, that seems like an obvious lead story. It's money and it impacts your pocketbook. So stories that are about safety or money, health, those kinds of things typically resonate in a more powerful way with people. But the Star Wars story is something that tomorrow you say to your buddy, hey, you gotta see what this guy has in Moose Jaw. You know, more so than you've got to check out the web story on the millions of dollars in deficit that we're facing right now. So, you know, it's more likely just a chat conversation. So we recognize the value of all of those stories, and I guess I would say that journalism is paramount to all of that. So particularly doing the Star Wars story isn't the most important thing, but it has, I think, value in connecting to the community and sharing just some of what we're all experiencing, even those of us that have never seen Star Wars, just saying, this is what people are interested in right now. So we try to be all of that, to try and cover all of those angles.
We actually have a question also. A question from Periscope, someone watching along. So I think Chelsea's going to yeah, she'll go over to the mic and ask, and then we'll get to your question.
So we had someone on Periscope whose question has disappeared, but we're going to try to get it right. Asking about what is a journalist's role when it comes to eradicating stereotypes. So they were asking about perhaps stereotypes of when you're telling a story. What role do you play when it comes to eradicating the stereotypes?
As a public broadcaster, we have a mandate that we take very seriously and care about, and that is to reflect the diversity of this country. And I think it's a mandate that doesn't exist in such a powerful way at the private broadcasters. But we consider very heavily whether the news programs and the content that we're offering is reflective of our audience, of all of our audience, not just the part of the community that maybe we individually belong to. So when you talk to people and do stories, it's important, I think, to go into all of the different communities and allow people to share their stories. And so it is about, sometimes a fact-based story may include something negative that happened to one group of people, but to also make sure you're giving an opportunity to, in particular, our Aboriginal community to share some of their positivity, the wonderful things that are happening there. And so I think that that is something that we really strive for, and it's on our agenda. We want to do that. CBC even has an Aboriginal website, CBC Aboriginal, if you want to check that out as well. So I think we try to do those things. We do initiatives that really are reflective of the diverse nature, and not just the Aboriginal community, but just all sorts of the minorities. And we have such a diverse population here in Saskatchewan, more so than we even had 10 years ago. So it's so important, I think, to reflect that changing face of our community.
A couple things I would add to that is we have some programming. I don't know if you've heard Unreserved, spring program on CBC Radio with Rosanna Deerchild, and programs like that go a long way. But true diversity, I work with a colleague who always puts it this way, and you use First Nations as an example, so I'll continue with that. It's when you don't just go to First Nations groups to do stories about First Nations issues. It's when there's a hockey tournament and you talk to the First Nations hockey dad, or you go to the grocery store and you're doing something about grocery prices and you talk to the Syrian mom who's shopping. It's talking to all people about all issues. Don't just bring me First Nations issues from the First Nations community in that isolated way. So that's when we know we've really reached true diversity, is when you see that happening in the media.
Christy, I wonder if we could ask Chris Brown a question.
Come on.
Depends what it is.
Can you make it a really hard one?
Chris, to do with the terrible phenomenon of ISIS and the Middle East, how is it possible to get accurate information, do accurate coverage, get first-hand response from people who are dealing with ISIS in war-torn countries like Syria and Afghanistan?
Well, it is a great question, but it's a very, very difficult one to answer. Internally, CBC is not sending crews to Syria. CBC English isn't. I understand Raymond St-Pierre went in with some Russians who were taking some media there on a tour of their areas that they have in Syria. But it's extremely dangerous. We had a reporter kidnapped in Afghanistan. It was fun several years ago. It changed the way that we approach safety in war environments. A lot of reporters go on what we call a hostile environment course. We have to go on it every 3 years. It's part of our insurance, part of our training. And there's a kidnapping scenario where they literally surprise you, put bags over your heads, and point guns at your head and try to scare the crap out of you. And it is extremely effective. So we have backed off on that, and I don't think in the short term you're going to see any CBC crews going in. And I think most Western journalists have done the same thing because of the horrible pictures we've seen. So I don't have a good answer for your question. I don't know is the answer how we do better than what we're doing. You know, we have sent people obviously to many of the areas in Turkey. We have gone to other safe spots in that area where we can get people escaping and hear stories that way. And I think for now that's how we're going to continue to cover it.
I have an idea for coverage in Saskatchewan. Journalists could travel the province by bus. What do you think of that?
No funding.
So that's one of the differences that our financial reality has made is we used to do remotes from all over. We didn't get on the bus, but we used to do remotes from all over the province, and those have really been scaled back, and that's one of the things that's gone with our recent financial reality at CBC is getting out and doing programs from different communities.
This is going to be the last question.
Mine is actually for Chris again, if I could draw you back to the stage. Yeah, so I'm the non-journalist in the room, so yeah, I guess so. My question really is around the human interest piece of what you guys do. You know, I see your industry from a different lens. So Joe, you might also have some background on this, probably more of a shield of the nature of your work. When you go to these disaster places, these hard luck stories, how do you distance yourself from the emotional connection to the hard luck piece? And then how do you cover the event and not become part of the cleanup or the helping? Maybe you do, we don't see that. You know, is there a desensitization that occurs? And maybe you have some comments.
No, it's a fair question. It's one you get asked a lot, and I was asked that by a couple high school students yesterday or today. I mean, it's very difficult from the pictures we had up there where kids holding signs to give us food, and we did. We gave them all our food. We had snacks and stuff like that, which we brought with us, but those don't last, and then you go to 6 other villages, and every village on the way gets the same thing. So it is very difficult. You have to have a laser focus on why you're there. You're there to do a difficult job, and that's to tell a fair, compassionate story that reflects the situation. And if you do that, I think that's important. I was getting notes when I was in the Philippines and other places about gosh, we appreciate this. There were lots of Canadians sent lots of money to help the disaster areas. I don't think they did it especially because of my stories, but I like to think that they fed into that. And I think when you're in a trouble spot, that's really what you can do. We're not aid workers. There's lots of aid workers, and they come in, and if you've ever seen the UN arrive, or Médecins Sans Frontières, these guys are pros. They know what they're doing. They bring their own cars, trucks, hospitals. Let's leave the aid work to them, and we can focus on journalism.
I'll just add one thing to that on a local level. When I was working in Red Deer, the Pine Lake tornado struck, and it wasn't that far from Red Deer, so we hopped in the news van and went out there, and it was destruction of this campground. So there was a lot of injured people, and this crisis was unfolding as we arrived to cover this crisis. So it was a local disaster, and there was that feeling of put down the camera and help with the people. So there was a few of us, so some of us did the helping, but our cameraman did take some video, and it was an odd thing, and we actually did sort of a crisis debrief after. Is that the right thing to do, to take some video, to do your job while there's some people that need help? And in that moment, it was the emergency crews were still coming out and all that, so they started to get, but it was a tough thing to do, but we felt like we did try to do both, to do a bit of helping, but to also be gathering some of the story, which was some of the work to do. And as far as being emotionally involved, I'm a super emotional person, so I have teared up on the news desk many a night when there's sad stories. I just do. I cry. Someone's sad, I'll cry. I'm not one of those people that can separate and look through something through a different lens. I'm very human. I'm a mom, and that's who I am. So I've sort of learned to just roll with that and brush the tears away and think of something. Sometimes I have to sort of, before we come back on camera, I'll think of something funny or, to try and, because I'll get upset watching stories or feel sad or impacted by the emotion of the news, there's no question. So I'm not emotionally disconnected at all.
Why don't we do another big thank you to Jill, Sheila, and Chris. So great to hear these amazing, enthusiastic questions. And we have seen, again, a lot of action on Twitter, so I want to hand out a couple of prizes before we let you go, because it is so amazing to see people so engaged with social media, as it is so important to the news now more than ever. Michelle Guerrero, I'm sorry, it's a difficult one. If you're in the room, or if she's tweeting from Periscope, then maybe not. Why not? At Why Not 05. Oh, here we go. And Krista Belico. Great. Well, we want to thank you so much for giving us this time of your day. We know you all lead very busy lives, and it was so great to meet you and to hear your questions and to see people so enthusiastic about journalism. It just makes us more happy about what we do every day. And if you do have more questions that you didn't quite get to, or you want to meet us, take pictures, Chris, myself, Jill, and Sheila will all be around that red wall just on that side of the room. You can come and share your thoughts or questions, and we'd be happy to see them. Thanks so much for joining us today.